Alright guys, I think I'm going to start with my two brothers that will shoot me again soon. First of all, I want to thank all you guys coming out tonight. A very special occasion for me personally. It's been a long time coming. I haven't been back in the city of Everett for 11 years. I live in Long Island in New York. I've lived in Long Island over 30 years. Many of you guys know me here from schools I used to attend, Cascade High School, Snohomish High School, Eisenhower Middle School, and Silver Lake Elementary. But I also want to thank the theater manager here, Curtis Schreiner. He really opened the door for me to have such a beautiful place to show this film. Thank you, Curtis. I also have to take the time to thank my two partners that aren't here tonight that made two of the 5 films that make up Devil's File. One of them's name is Award-winning Filmmaker, and the other is George Brianca. They're not only my business partners on the film, but we creatively help each other in so many ways. By that, I think an example, Award-winning Filmmaker was my director of photography on the movie Stash, which is the last film that's within this film. And he also shot The Devil's File wraparound, which holds the whole entire film together. And he directed, wrote, edited, and shot his film called Choke. And George Brianca appears in The Devil's File as an actor. He appears in Choke as an actor. And then he directed and wrote his first film ever, Don't Say These Words. My wife Paula and my daughter Rosina could not be here tonight because of my wife's job. They blocked her from leaving the first week of August because they closed for 3 weeks after that. Otherwise they would be here. So I just have to thank them for all the time they let me do this crazy stuff of making movies. And all the classmates, schoolmates that helped promote this night, I have to thank you guys because without that help and my brothers and my family, that's really huge for an independent film. You don't get all the big budget advertising, so it's very, something I very much appreciate. And lastly, the co-star of the film, Diana Noris, she flew in here tonight from Washington, D.C. I really appreciate her being here to give the support for this film. Thank you, Diana. I think I live about 2,500 miles from the city, and I've been that distance for over 30 years. So the big question is, what am I doing here tonight in this beautiful theater? And why is my beautiful co-star here as well? And the answer to that is, after I was born in Utah, my parents moved to Seattle when I was 2. And after a brief stay in North Seattle, they moved to the Silver Lake area of Everett. So we're in South Everett. I was there from, I guess, this 2 years to the 3rd grade. After that, we moved to 21 Oaks, which my friend Andrew Capella, who I met in kindergarten, his family lived in that neighborhood. And his mother was here tonight, Pat, which is like my second mom, sister Joanne, which is like a sister of mine. We fell in love with the neighborhood. We ended up moving almost like a block away. So I grew up in South Everett, basically. Growing up in Everett, some people say, well, how was that in relation to being a filmmaker? And the truth is, for me, it was really good. I come from such a large family. I have 5 brothers, 3 sisters, 9 kids total. And Everett gave me the chance to, I guess you can pretty much do anything you want. It's not just a filmmaker. My brother's a guitar player, my other brother's a photographer. Whatever your dream is, if you really chase it, pursue it for your whole life, anybody can make something happen. I came from a family that didn't have a lot of money, but I still kept going as being a director. And in terms of that, I started out probably as a child liking movies like Godzilla. There was a show called Nightmare Theater. It had a vampire count. They They used to show horror films late at night, and I would watch it with my dad, I'd watch it with Andrew, I'd watch it with Tom Jones, who's also from kindergarten out in the audience here tonight. I'd have these crazy birthday parties where I'd invite all these kids from all my schools, and we watch horror films all night. And I really never stopped doing that, even now. In 1978, I saw Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween.
Yeah.
It had a major effect on me. I remember the day after I saw it, I was at the clubhouse in 21 Oaks playing baseball, and I was on the pitcher's mound throwing to Steve Jones, one of our other friends, whoever it was that day, and I couldn't shake the imagery of Michael Myers, the way that beautiful cinematography by Dean Cundy, and music from John Carpenter, the locations which I thought were the Midwest, which were actually Hollywood, and I've actually been to those locations since. Just really, they stayed with me. And at first I thought my interest in filmmaking was special makeup effects, because back at that time, it was a real big rage, whether it was Tom Savini doing Friday the 13th, or George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, Prowler, The Burning, The Howling, Rick Baker doing American Werewolf in London. I mean, the list goes on and on. So at first I thought that was my interest. So probably about 3 years, that's when I changed that I wanted to get involved with film. But makeup effects were kind of expensive. I didn't really have a lot of money. So I did some of the things you would do if you're a makeup artist without actually doing the makeup. I was drawing a lot of pictures, I sculptured, etc. In 1982 was a major turning point in my life for multiple reasons. First of all, my family moved. We moved from South Everett across the valley to Snohomish. And, you know, I was gonna miss all the kids. I went to school from kindergarten to 10th grade, which is, you know, a major change at that point in your life. And I went on my first date. I actually went on my first date at the Everett Mall Cinema. I took a girl to see Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D.
Oh, yeah.
On opening night, I think it was August 13th, 1982. It was so crowded that night, and I bought my tickets early knowing it was going to sell out, that we had to end up sitting separate. There was no double seats. And I remember saying to her name was Julie, I said, you know, you want to come back another night, see it a different time? And she's like, no, I think you want to see this movie. She could tell I was a horror film fanatic. So we watched the film, and I asked her if she wanted to sit in the back, because, you know, Jason's going to shoot arrows out, chop people in half, all that stuff. And she wanted to sit closer, so I let her. But that really wasn't the turning point. The turning point was in June of that year. John Carpenter's The Thing came out. I saw it at the Everett Mall, the same theater I saw Friday the 13th. And it blew me away. Every aspect of it. The acting, the cinematography by Dean Cundy again, John Carpenter's direction. But I wasn't really thinking about his direction. I remember when I watched the movie, I didn't even realize it was the same guy that made Halloween. It wasn't until after the film that I walked out and I looked at the poster on the wall, and I realized it was the same director who had scared me with Halloween that had stayed with me. And it was at that very moment I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker. And I also realized that the makeup artist didn't really tell the story. And because I was a writer, since a small kid making comic books with Andrew, I ended up making a fanzine in high school called Carnage, which some of my staff that worked on that are here tonight, like Tim Bruns. And I just decided at that point I want to do what he did to me twice. And I remember thinking how difficult it was going to be, because I honestly had no idea what a director does. And I remember going one time to the North Gate, because my grandma didn't live far from there. And I was at one of the bookstores, and I'm like, what am I going to read that will tell me how to be a filmmaker? It seemed so gigantic to me. But I guess over the course of many years, I started learning about what directors do. In Snohomish High School, there were a couple teachers that really must have honed in on my passion. They didn't really do that at Cascade. And maybe because I didn't have so many friends and such, because I was in school, I kind of focused on my work. And there was an art teacher named Mike Moe, and he allowed me to have my own art class by myself. I sculptured monsters, drew pictures of all kinds of crazy stuff. And there was a TV productions class offered at SHS, which I took with Peter Bulke. And Peter must have saw my passion, and at one point asked me to teach a class on the thing. And when I look back on it, I didn't know anything about what filmmaking really was. But I thought I would just try it. And I did teach a class. We showed the film. We talked about it. Rob Bottin's incredible effects. And looking back on that, that was such an important moment. Because when you're at that delicate age as a high school student, your confidence isn't really great. I didn't come from a family like a lot of money, so I wasn't making films yet. But what it did was it gave me confidence. And I think that's so critical. And if there's any educators here, even parents, if your kids have some sort of dream, if they have something that's unique or different, I think you should try to encourage it instead of fight it or turn it off. I think that we need that, you know what I mean? And I also think that you don't have to be what everybody thinks. I was very athletic since I was a small kid. Dave Henderson here can tell you how I played soccer, I played football, I played baseball. Scott Harris can tell you that, that's in this audience tonight. But I wasn't a jock. I was kind of a nerd in a sense that I was a film geek, and I was an artist and I was a writer, but I really wasn't a nerd because I played sports. I grew up in a Mormon family, but I liked horror films, which is almost the opposite of what they believe in. I also liked heavy metal. So I was listening to Metallica on their first album before anyone had ever heard it, including myself, whether it was Raven, Saxon, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, the list goes on and on. So here I am, a Mormon, listening to heavy metal, watching horror films, and that's against that religion kind of in a lot of ways. But it goes to show you, you don't have to be what people think or what the model is. You can break that. I try to do that in my script writing. On my new movie I just directed, which is not finished yet, I had all kinds of characters that you would never expect be certain characters, like a serial killer. I tried to pick the most unlikely person to play that as the part. So I just think that there's no reason for anyone just to fit a mold. You should break the mold and really do what you want. Just talking a little bit more about Everett itself, one of the things that was great back then, and I think it's even actually better now that having Netflix and all these easily accessible movies, because at that time when I was first starting filmmaking or having an interest in filmmaking, you couldn't just watch a movie. If you didn't see it in the theater, you had to have cable, which we did not, or you had to watch it on national TV, where they probably cut scenes, took out certain words, etc. So it wasn't like the same thing. But the thing that was so different about them versus now is we watched the whole film. You could put Netflix on and you're like, I don't like this movie, shut it off. Back then you would never do that because you wouldn't get a chance to see it again. So I'd be at Andrew Cabela's house with his mom, Pat, Al, God rest his soul. We would look at the Showtime guide, we'd see what was on a month ahead of time. We'd wait till that day and we'd watch the film. We also had drive-ins back then. And you could go to the Puget Park drive-in. You could go to the Snow King drive-in in Linwood. You could go to the Thunderbird drive-in up in Marysville. And it was great because you could watch double features of Dawn of the Dead with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you were dating, like I did a few times, I had a short girlfriend, so we put her in the trunk so we wouldn't have to pay the full price. We'd sneak her in. Those were good times. I remember the Everett Community College even had this cinema night where for $2 you could watch all these great horror films. I saw 2000 Maniacs. I saw Dawn of the Dead the first time there. It was awesome. And when I was in Snohomish High School, even though I decided to become a director, I remember at one point, my junior year, I was trying to decide what I really wanted to do with my life because I didn't know I was going to make it as a director, if something that would ever happen. And I remember I was on the second floor of the main building. I was walking down the hall, and I said, what do I really want to do? Because my senior year was coming up the next year. And I thought about it, and I was playing baseball. I wasn't a star. And I liked playing sports, and that was always kind of my dream. But I knew in my heart I wasn't good enough to do it, to be professional. So I thought, what could I really do that I'd be good at? And it was pretty easy after that I said I want to be a film director. So it's taken a long time. It didn't happen overnight. And I don't even think I'm really there yet. I'm getting closer. Doors are opening a little bit at a time. But I narrowed my focus down. There was a girl I was dating for about 6 months. And after that relationship ended, I said, that's it. I'm just going to focus on films. And I didn't date anybody for probably about 4 years. After I graduated, I went in the Army. I didn't date anyone during that time. And I just went all after films. I was watching as many films as I could see. I was reading every single book or magazine that came out. There was no internet. So you had to find other ways of getting the information. One story, just quickly, I remember I was a guy that was in Oklahoma, in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Actually, Hominy, Oklahoma. And I'd heard this guy was a film freak. He had all kinds of magazines in his room. He was introduced by a good friend of mine named Kendall Cook, who was a friend that I made through a magazine called Fangoria, the biggest horror film magazine in the world, which I've been reading religiously for over 40 years. And when I went to see Kendall, I went and saw this guy named Jay Blueberry. You walk in his bedroom, and it was literally stacks of magazines and books. And I don't know how many people would ever do this, but this tells you my interest. After we'd hang out, talk, have dinner, I would just go in there and try to read everything, which is insane, impossible, but I still tried. That's the kind of commitment and dedication I put into learning filmmaking. You know, when you're a writer, director, producer, it's not easy. In fact, it's probably the hardest job I've ever done. One of my first jobs was shoveling horse stalls, cleaning up the crap from a horse. And filmmaking's harder. It's usually double the hours of a normal day at your job. It's never 8 hours. On the movie I just did, the first 3 days were 16 hours, 17 hours, 19 hours. That's back to back to back. And when you have a low budget or a limited budget, not all the time is everybody getting paid. So how do you keep people working that kind of a crazy schedule? It's just a gift that I've had. I guess they believe in my work over the 30 years as a filmmaker. But you pay the price in other ways. I don't see my family all the time. You can physically get hurt making a movie. When I was making a music video in Louisiana, back when I was in the Army, probably 1987, I was shooting this music video to a heavy metal band. So I called it an amateur music video, meaning we weren't shooting the band. We were making a movie from the song. It was a heavy metal band from Germany called Orlok. The song was Kiss of Death. I had these 2 girls dressed up as vampire hookers. And I asked my soldiers, could you find some place in Leesville, Louisiana that was really decrepit, run down, that would fit those kind of characters? So we ended up getting this place by the railroad tracks in town, very small southern town. So I have these 2 girls dressed in fishnet, high heels, everything's getting pushed out, high as they could get on the skirt. We're walking down the street, we start shooting this music video, and all of a sudden the cops show up. And they said, who's in charge of this thing? And I said, I am. They said, put your hands against the car. Spread your feet apart. And they frisked me and they got me, they read me my rights. I'm like, what did we do wrong? And they said, just stay still, be quiet. So they eventually put me in the back of the police car, took me to the station, and I said, what did we do wrong? And they said, you were shooting in front of a club for 12-year-old kids. The parents saw those girls and thought it was a very bad example. So we're not actually arresting you, but you're going to have to stay here for about 50 minutes. On another movie, an actress had a diabetic seizure because actresses always want to look as thin as possible for the camera. So she wasn't eating. I didn't know that. We're shooting this scene called, a movie called Double Fantasy, which is back probably 1989, 1990. We had these three girls sitting on a staircase. They were each telling their fantasies. One was kind of sexy, one was kind of funny, one was romantic. And at one point, the girl started going to convulsions. Her hair almost caught on fire because we had candles all around them, and she went into convulsions. I had to replace her because I didn't want to hurt her, and I couldn't trust her taking care of herself, so I had to end up replacing her. And not to go through every story of every movie I've done, I had an actress have a nervous breakdown because we were shooting 30 hours straight in Oklahoma. I had a movie called, that was called Perishing Hearts. I had a movie called Hair of the Dog, where we had a girl that was supposed to get her guts chainsawed out of her body. So we created this dummy to put the fake guts in. The problem was we didn't make the arms long enough. So someone had to hold the dummy up. And at that time we didn't have anything like a C-stand or anything like that. So me and the writer-producer decided to volunteer to hold the dummy. And when we were getting ready to do it, you always talk through stunts and special effects, but again, we're low budget. So I took one side of the dummy, and we were trying to guess what the real chainsaw was going to do. And my actor that was the lead in that film said, I think the teeth are going to grab the shirt, it's going to climb up the body. So we shot it after talking about it a lot, and it's exactly what it did. And I'm really happy that I was holding that side of the dummy, because the chainsaw came up right next to my hand, and I pulled it away. Thank God it was quick, or I might have lost my hand or arm. On a movie I just did last year, I pinched the nerve in my neck. I am having numb fingers and a forearm for about a month, so I had a pinched nerve. I did physical therapy for about 3 months. So there's a lot of prices you pay for making films for the work that you do. You get constant rejection. It's not easy raising money, but I'm not saying that to feel bad for me or sorry. It's just part of the job. So movie making, when you make that decision, it's going to be a long, hard road, but you know, nights like tonight make it worth it. Yeah. After the movie plays, which we're about to start the film, there's going to be a Q&A session where my actress Diana Noris, my co-star of the film, and myself will come up on the stage. We will answer any question that you might have. There's a lot of stories about making this film that would shock you. It took us almost 4 years to make it. There was supposed to be 5 directors. There ended up only being 3. And we had some situations that a lot of people would have quit. They would have given up. I had a friend of mine, that used to be a friend, who told me one of the films you're about to see, he would never show to a public audience because it would blacken my name. It wasn't presentable. It wasn't workable. And I told him I'm going to shove it up his, you know what, to prove him wrong. So after we're going to have a Q&A. Anybody that asks questions means you will be on the DVD, which means we also have to have you sign a release form. So what I'll do is I'll have someone from the bottom ask a question first. After you ask the question, there'll be someone that brings you the mic before you. We'll have you stand, raise your hand. We'll have someone pick you out, ask the question. After you sit down while we're answering it, they'll have you sign a general release form. That's needed to be shown or heard in a movie in any way. All distributors require that. And I hope you guys have questions because there's a lot of interesting stuff you can find out about. The last thing that I want to say is, you know, when you write, or when you're a director, should I say, I've always had the God-given gift to see a movie before it happens. I see where the camera is, I can hear the sound effects, the type of music. That's how I'm able to convey that to a crew of all kinds of technicians that work on these films. And by the way, on these 5 movies, about 180 people worked on those films. So it certainly wasn't me by myself. On the 3 films that I directed, the Doubles 5 wraparound, we had 60 people work on that film. On Abandoned, there were about 20. I purposely wanted it small, because we were shooting in some locations that you were really not supposed to go in. So I didn't want a lot of people. And then the other movie, Stash, I had about 56 people work. So these are pretty big movies. But like I say, when you visualize things, it's like a gift. I visualized showing a movie as a premiere in this city since I was a kid. So with all you guys here being tonight, thank you for helping me realize that dream, and enjoy the movie. Did you guys enjoy it? Yeah! Thank you so much. Thank you guys. So we're going to start this off. It's all open to you. Anything you want to ask about what we did, 5 movies, we can answer them. We can take turns if you want for anyone in particular, or just switch off. So anybody have a question right off the bat? Right there. Okay, hold on a second. Just stand up a second, if you could. We're going to get a microphone over to you. It's a cordless mic. Yeah, because we want to make sure we can be able to hear it on the Blu-ray DVD.
So, can you hear me?
Sure.
So, in the making of the movie, was there anything illegal that you had to do to complete it? And if so, what was it?
What was that last part? Anything illegal?
It was just not quite legal.
Yeah, as far as the movie Abandoned, which was the second movie in the film, which I wrote, produced, and directed, we shot at a couple locations that you're not supposed to go in. If you wanted to get permits in those places, you'd never get them. They wouldn't allow it because of what's inside, asbestos, lead paint. We shot that on the hottest day of the year in Long Island. It was 97 degrees, so there's no AC or any kind of fans. And, you know, we had to wear masks for the most part. I gave the crew a choice if they wanted to wear them or not. I provided it for the whole crew. But I remember at one point, I had the sweat just pouring off my face, and I said, screw it, I'm taking it off. So like the last 3 hours, I took it off. And I remember asking the doctor, do you think that's going to end up being a problem for me? And he says, I don't know, we're going to find out in about 20 years. So hopefully that answers the question. We did get kicked out twice, but we kept going back, and we shot part of a few other places as well. So we ended up getting what we needed. Anybody else got another good question?
Saying a good one.
Okay, stand up. Let me get someone with a mic over there too.
What you said earlier.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Yes, someone
On
come
your,
here.
I think another movie. You said that when that guy was, when you had the dummy, I think it was this one, right?
I was Harry the dog.
You were holding the one side of the dummy.
Yes.
And the guy was holding, somebody else was on the other side?
Yeah, the producer, right?
And they came up with the chainsaw?
Yeah.
And you let go? Was that being filmed?
Absolutely.
Okay, the question is, would you have let the film guy keep filming if he had gone up your arm with a chainsaw?
I don't think so, obviously. I think that'd be a pretty serious problem.
You would say, hold, stop the camera?
I think so, because then you'd have emergency and there'd be blood all over. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, when you're making a movie, you know, it's not about reality with violence. And I try to be as safe as I possibly can. So, you know, I'm always thinking about the cast and crew, whether it be ticks, whether it be, you know, danger or whatever. You learn the more you do these things to try to be careful and hire better people and figure out ways of doing it correctly. I think if the dummy was longer arms, we wouldn't have had any kind of problem. Okay, who's got the next question?
Fair.
Please stand up.
There is a question.
Hey Diana, was this your first horror movie, and where do you see your career go?
Thank you, Mary. Well, actually, yes. I always play bad girl. No, I actually play couple of horror movies, but they were not as, diabolic. I never played the dead. It's the first playing stuff like that. I enjoy it very much, and I think this film, I got the role like 2 weeks before shooting because they had another actress. I don't know what happened exactly, but she backed down, so she didn't do it. So he hired me, and when I told him I never played the devil, but I think I would be really good at it. So, so it came out really natural, and I'm surprised I haven't seen the movie until now. So, loved it. And answering your question, well, my career, I'm moving to Los Angeles, and I've been, because I'm working there in a TV series, I'm there like twice a month. So I'm going there in September. And, just planning to move forward with my career and many other films, and hopefully work with Mr. Terry here again. And, I hope you all enjoyed the movie. This is the first time I've seen it, so.
Yeah, and you know what? And you know what I'd add to that for Diana, I give her a lot of credit because we had 2 weeks before shooting and another actress that couldn't do it because she actually lived far away just like Diana did. I think Diana at the time was from Miami, right?
Yeah.
She was in Miami.
I was in Miami right then.
And the other actress was in Arizona, and she just couldn't come for the weekends we needed to shoot it. We shot it on weekends. The Devil's Five wraparound was shot in 2 weekends. Same with the band, and Stash was about 3 weekends. So what I give her a lot of credit about, I don't know if you noticed, but there was a lot of makeup on her. The makeup, why don't you tell us the experience of how long it took, and including like the contacts, which we never could get in her eyes, and we spent $400 on for nothing.
Well, the makeup was like hours and hours and hours every day that we were shooting, and it was, I enjoyed it because I was seeing the whole process, and it was very, very cool. But it was a little annoying after a few hours. But the contacts, it was supposed to be red contacts, so my eyes would look red, obviously. I never had worn contacts in my life, and I was game. I wanted to do it. We tried hours and hours, and we could not make it work. My eyes were watery, and I was crying, and I was getting irritated. So then Terry said, you know what? We're just gonna CGI it. So we're just gonna pretend on film, and because we couldn't make it work, it was just hours with the contacts, trying and trying and trying.
Yeah, on the first day we shot Devil's Five, which was September 18th, 2015, we had a schedule that was crazy. I knew with my experience directing that we had an impossible schedule. On a movie you can shoot maybe about 8 pages in a day if you're lucky, which would probably be about 10 or 12 scenes. And we actually had 18 scenes, and it was about 12 and a half pages of dialogue or script. And the only reason I did that was because the guy that was playing the lead detective, Detective Frank Armitage, which is played by Kevin Cusick, and for those who may not know who he is, he's a 7-time Emmy Award-winning producer for ESPN. If you go on YouTube, you can watch the Nancy Kerrigan story. He was the guy who broke that story when she got hit in the knee. And he's an actor too, so he had told me he couldn't make the second weekend of shooting. So I had a choice. Do I recast Kevin and have someone that could make both weekends, or do I use him for the only day I basically had him? And when I auditioned people for that part, he was the best actor. So I decided to keep him and work with the limited schedule because I thought that'd be better for the movie. And it made it very intense. About 10 days before the shoot, I found out I had pneumonia. And the doctor said to me, you have to rest, don't stand up, don't do anything stringent. And when you're working 14 hours, 2 of those were overnight, completely overnight on the runway. We shot the car chases on a 7,000-foot airport runway because I couldn't have enough money to block off roads with cops. So the cops said to me, just find someone with a private road, you don't need our help. So I went to see these farmers, the roads didn't look right. They said, why don't you get the airport runway in Riverhead? So we shot that on the old Grumman. They have 2 airport runways. We got the 7,000 foot runway, and we shot that on weekends, and I had pneumonia. Who is next? Please stand up and we'll get you a mic.
Is there anything that happened either for the actors or during the production that was like a fluke or something strange that ended up working out better than was originally planned, and you guys went, that's the money shot, we keep that, we got to keep that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I haven't really thought about that. I think that, you know, when you're doing a movie, you have this pre-visualization of what you think you're going to get or hope to get. And it's very difficult to get that 100%. I would say there's probably no film that's ever done it, even if you're Jim Cameron or someone like that. So you're always kind of compromising, and hopefully the compromise is not going to hurt the movie. And there's so many reasons for that, whether it's time, lack of money, people's attitudes, people get tired. You know, there's a lot of reasons. But I think as far as this movie, an accident that might have worked better, that's a tough question. I'm trying to think if there's something that worked out that was difficult. Well, you know, Stash, the last movie in the church, when we filmed that, we didn't have enough funds to pay for a really good sound recordist. And in fact, when he was recording the sound, he wasn't there half the time. So we had a movie that, not actually it wasn't Pat, it was another gentleman. He was only there half the time. And so we, in other words, had half a solid movie. And the guy who came up with the whole idea about this film, he lives in Seattle. And he was a friend of mine who approached me and said, do you want to make a movie with 5 directors? We'll each come up with the resources to make one and put them together. And I said yes after I thought about it. And he ended up getting his feelings hurt and left the project. But he said, you can keep the name. Obviously the films are yours. And that was the reason why I had to do an extra movie. And then there was another director named Brian Weiss, who lives in Texas, was a very good friend of mine, and he died of cancer. So I had to make a 3rd film, which was abandoned, the 2nd film. But I think in Stash, we had no usable sound. Even the stuff that the guy we had recorded was not good enough to use. So I think the answer to your question is, we had a movie that really we couldn't use anything we recorded, and half of it was silent. I had to bring the actors back twice in ADR to re-record all the dialogue. Every footstep, every sound, every bird was recreated. And a lot of people told me that was the movie where that friend that used to be a friend said never show it. But he saw a rough cut, and a rough cut should never be seen by anyone outside the film directly. Probably not even anyone that's on the crew. And he didn't believe I could pull it off. But you guys just watched it, and hopefully I did that. But that's probably the thing that we didn't have usable sound, but it still worked. Yeah. Please stand up.
You got one over here too.
Oh, sorry.
I just skipped through like 4 times.
Okay, great. We're gonna get you next. Okay.
Okay, so you chose New York for your film career, and I'm just wondering, where do you see the future of film still in New York in different, like maybe Florida, California, different sects, and also I'm wondering, do you have your own production company, or do you plan on like selling this to Lionsgate, or I'm just looking at the big picture, and also, or that type of a firm, and also for like students fresh out of film college, is that the kind of help that you look for when you're looking to do all your production?
Yeah, with the budgets that we've worked with, a lot of times you have to go with new people that are willing to kind of sacrifice to get their credit, to get experience. And sometimes that can be good, and sometimes it can be bad. As far as New York, I'm really of the theory that when directors go to Hollywood, it kind of changes them, and not always for the better. You know, it's so inundated with people in the industry. I think that you can start to believe what they say, and I think once you do that, you lost it. You can see that with certain filmmakers that I really admire, like John Carpenter, George Romero, etc. If you look at the work they did when they were kind of smaller and had these intimate crews, their best work came out of that. When they went to Hollywood, got big budgets, I'm sure that was great for their wallet and bank accounts, but if you look at the movies, I think that shows you that they weren't as good. So I don't see myself moving to LA. Not that that's bad for Diana, she's a different situation. She's an actress. For me, I create my own opportunities. As far as kids from film school, the digital world out there today is such where you can literally have almost any kind of camera. And if you have the talent, ambition, people you work with, you can actually make a movie. And I know that Jim Cameron is one of my favorite directors. He said, no one's going to ever give you a shot. You've got to take it, because no one's going to give you anything. Because why would they do that when there's so many people in the industry are already experienced? So I just go for it. How do you feel about that, Diana, as far as location? You've lived so many places in the country. I remember when we first worked together, we did this shoot for a TV series called Existence. And I didn't know Diana. She came from the producer who was the writer. And after we shot, she said, I have to talk to you. And she sounded kind of stern. So I'm thinking, what did I do wrong, whatever. So we shoot the trailer, came out really good. Afterwards I went over to her. She took me aside outside, which looked like it was bad. And she said to me, I'm sure you can back this. She said, I work with directors in Miami, Las Vegas, and LA all the time. And you don't talk like any of them. You have a special way where you're so sensitive and respectful. When we were doing the scene where she was crying, I got down on my knee and I talked to her in a whisper, because I thought that moment was just important for her. So you might be able to reiterate that, but she's worked all over the country and she might be able to tell you better.
What's really funny? That happened. It's true. And the other day I was working in LA for a TV show that I'm a part of, and the main actress, I'm the mom of the main actress in that TV show, and the director had just that moment that we had with her, and it just took me back to that moment with you, because I was looking, you just like, he was on the plane with them, and he was just, whispering, and then I was seeing me and her, she started crying, and I'm like, oh, that's why they were talking. So it was really cool, because I'm like, yeah, it's just really good when a director connects with the actor like that, without having to just, not everybody else needs to know what's happening. It's between the director and the actor at that moment. And so it took me back, and I remembered, that moment that we had. So yeah, and I'm working with a lot of directors, and I work a lot in the independent films. So very humble directors. That's how I always started. I started like that, and now I'm getting into other projects that are more mainstream, and the directors are a little more harsh and a little not as personal, and So I really enjoy working independent films, because it's just more. It's the future of the industry. So mainstream films, they're, because of budget, it's happening less and less. You gotta be Martin Scorsese, to just have that kind of budget, or Tarantino, So the industry now, the future is independent films, and it's just so good to work with them, you guys. It's a different mentality. It's more humble, more personal.
Thank you. And I don't know about how you guys feel, but when I watch some of the movies that come out of Hollywood today, I'm so disappointed because, you know, with our society trying to kind of whitewash everything, we have to be politically correct about everything we do. I think in some ways that takes away texture and character, and I kind of miss the movies of the 70s and the 80s because those directors were more courageous, they were bold, they didn't have to just try to appeal to the common denominator. And I think that, you know, with all the CGI, you're looking at stuff that's not real. It's not real people, it's not real places, and they're not usually doing real things. So I'm the type of director, if you watch my 3 movies here, not just because of budget, probably I'd even choose it if I had a higher budget, I'm going to go with something that you're going to believe and that you're going to think is the real thing. Okay, great. Maybe we'll get the nice person out there with you.
So I was wondering, in the beginning you said that you were Mormon, correct? Or you were at least raised Mormon.
Yes.
So this is actually a question for both of you guys. How did you separate your religion from all of the, I guess, dark little theories of the movies and all that?
Do you mean of, you know, the movie, this movie, or just in
This
general?
movie, well, I mean in general, I haven't seen your other movies, so I mean if the other movies follow a lot of the darker religion sides, how do you separate how you guys personally believe with your acting skills and directing?
Do you want to talk about that first?
I'm not religious, and I'm into horror, and I mean, I can watch horror films at night by myself. My daughter says that I'm creepy. Yes, I am creepy, I guess, but just I'm not a religious. I believe in the universe and a higher power. I don't believe in what people usually follow or believe. So, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, as far as me, with very religious mom, very religious grandma, it was crazy how much they were in the church. But I separate it. It's not real. It's a movie. So nothing I write about is going to actually be real. It's imaginary. So for me, I think that's really overblown. I think that we have people that have problems that have nothing to do with movies, whether it be their mental state, frustration, anger. So, I mean, I'm not saying we should try to, you know, put gas on the fire with that, but I've always separated this. And I still argue that horror films are cathartic. If you watch them, your blood could pump, you can get scared, you can feel threatened, you can feel all these things, but you're still sitting either in your home or in a movie theater, and you walk out and you're safe. Hopefully that answers you. Yeah, I didn't let it stop me from doing the things I like and the things that I listen to and write, read, make movies about. I just took a look at them as that they're fake. They're not real. Who's the next person? Please stand up.
So I have 2 questions. One for you. Terry, I mean this as a compliment. That was some dark, demented shit. And where did you get your inspiration? And Diana, did you have serious nightmares after playing that?
Why don't I let ladies go first? Because I always like to be a gentleman.
I did not. Like I said, I watched major gory horror films by myself. It doesn't scare me at all. And when you're working in a film as an actor, you're part of the process. So you know it's fake. So it doesn't, no, not at all.
Yeah, as far as my inspiration, each movie was different. The one for Devil's Five, the first, you know, the wraparound that holds the whole film together, I've seen a lot of found footage anthologies, and I thought that they were always about very small things. And even if you didn't have money. And I also felt that they kind of start slow and they don't really kick in. So if you watch our movie, we start out with a car chase. And I think that's the inspiration of Jim Cameron, one of my 3 favorite directors. So I wanted to put you right into something happening already. And I thought that the idea that the devil was trying to use electronic mediums to take over the world was very topical, it's very current, and what better way to do it in today's world? So that was my inspiration for that story. For Abandon, since I had to make a third film, the film that the guy left with was going to bring a little bit of nudity, sexuality, and gore. I didn't really bring the gore with Abandon, but I brought a little bit of nudity. And I also felt that if I'm going to do something that was the last one out of the 3, I want it to be very small and quick. And it's 12 and a half minutes, the shortest out of all the films. And I think it delivered, hopefully, suspense, tension, and daylight, which is not usually the way a director in horror films goes. But we kind of had no choice because of locations. And as far as Stash, the guy who wrote that script was a guy named Tim Clark. And Tim had experience in Spain on his job where he did a smartphone applicated scavenger hunt. It's called it's not Geostash, Geocache, but he changed it to Stash. That's where we got the title from. And he said he went on this one where he found something and the guy was actually hiding there and jumped out and scared him. So I said, imagine if somebody used something like that for evil means, and that's how Stash came to be. And Stash was the first movie I directed after a 5-year purposeful hiatus, because when my daughter was born in 2008, I didn't want to do anything on films, so I could develop a bond with her. So that was my first movie after not directing for 5 years.
Great segue into my question, which was going to be, what is the significance of the magazines that you actually cameoed throughout the movies?
Yeah, the Boom magazine obviously was just to have a little sexuality, bring a little touch of that. And it actually was no nudity, we just showed the cover. As far as the other magazine, in my friend's movie with the kids out in the woods, George's movie, I think he was just trying to kind of tip his hat to some of the people that inspired him. So he's a comic book guy. He made Dr. Weird instead of Dr. Strange. So I think they were just kind of our own personal choices of things we like to kind of tip the hat, so to speak.
This is actually for both of you. What was the toughest part for each of you to do in this movie?
You go first, Diana.
Well, the scene that they were shooting me, remember that?
It was a paintball gun, so she was actually getting hit by things that would explode.
Paintball, and I have pads. Well, one of them went through in between the pads, and it hurt me so bad while I'm walking, so I had to stay in character while I'm dying from pain. And it hurt a lot, but we made it work, and it made it even real. So I don't complain. Just looking at it on camera and on the film, you can see, that I was like really getting, shook. So yeah, but it was hard.
And I think she even might have got hit in the forearm at one point, which will almost create like welts. But I give her a lot of credit, because she went through that and never stopped. Thank God.
Not even one.
As far as myself, hardest part, when you're shooting at night, and you might guess the Stash and the wraparound, there's a lot of night shoots. It gets so hard at some point because I've done so many of them. Everybody kind of slows down, because most people are not used to working at night. So when you're on an airport runway, the wind is constantly blowing in your face. I think we had to set a harvest moon. It was like that blood moon.
It was a red moon.
It was a red moon on one of our shooting nights. And, I just find that at one point you can't push the crew too hard because they're exhausted, they've been working hard. I think that's the hardest part is, like, how do you keep that going? Where do you stop? Do you get enough? I remember on that first day of the wraparound, when I knew we couldn't pull off what we needed, I'd ask the guy that was part of the location, what time is the latest we can shoot? And he said, first he said 5 o'clock. And I said, well, what's the latest we can shoot? And he goes, how about like 8 o'clock? Well, when it was 7:30 and we weren't close to being done, the guy that came from Seattle said, what can I do? I said, go try to talk to this guy. See if he'll let us stay later. Now, I knew we were never going to finish. But the guy that was from Germany, which by the way, I don't know if you guys know, but the guy with the shaved head and the muscles, that's Ralph Scheepers, the lead singer for Primal Fear. We flew him in from Germany, and he's a real rock star, and he was amazing. Totally humble, great guy, right?
Amazing. Yeah.
One of the hardest workers on the film. But for me, the hardest part was knowing we were never going to finish that night. Could we pick up what we needed the following weekend? When we were on airport runway, could we get what we needed? And the ambulance on the first weekend got taken away because it got called to an emergency. And the guy that got us the ambulance told me he took out a $500 bill to get that ambulance for us. So he had to do it a second time, take out another $500, and we got it for the second weekend. But I think maybe the hardest one also was because I had pneumonia. After doing that first weekend, I got diarrhea for like 2 days straight. It was crazy. Exactly. And if you hear my voice kind of cracking, I've been talking to so many family and friends on this visit. My voice is like shot. But anyway, do you got something over there, or who's the next person? You got another one, Bart?
No, I'm good.
Please.
This is for her. When you were strapped in the ambulance, were those breakaway straps? I've been strapped down to enough for myself.
Strapped down in the ambulance. Was it breakaway straps, or were you actually strapped down?
Because they gave way pretty easily, and I've been strapped down to enough stretchers that those things aren't easy to get out of.
I think we might have had them a little loose so she could actually sit up, because otherwise, how would you do it? You know, so I think they were kind of loosely tied.
I do remember, what's his name, Richard? The guy in the ambulance with me? Richard Kern?
Yeah, Richard Kern.
I grabbed him by the neck. That was still part of the script. And he's like, holy shit! Because I wanted to make it look more real. So.
Exactly.
Okay, so I guess one of my favorite movie producers would be Adam Sandler and his partner Tim Curley. But with Adam, I see a lot of the same people in his films, and college buddies, SNL buddies, all that. You seem to be the same type where if somebody works well with you, then you will want to work with them again. And also you've worked with Bart and Evan, and I just want to say that I'm just really impressed with what I've seen with the film and knowing what I know about the family. So is that pretty accurate that you do like to work with the same people a lot if they do a good job, that's what I say.
Yeah, I would say yes. I mean, I worked with Diana twice now. On this movie, I have the same DP on 2 out of 3 movies. I think it's really good because it creates a certain shorthand where you don't have to explain everything. You also have a certain amount of trust because not everybody can do what you need and not everybody works as hard. I remember Diana saying when we shot the wraparound that she thought it was the hardest working crew she's ever seen. She could probably elaborate that as well.
Yeah, because they were very committed. When you work in big projects where there's big budgets, people are very lazy. But this is very, the timing has to be on point, but it's low budget and they have to, go by, what's expected. And so we were working really hard, but they were working really hard, more than anything, the crew, until like a couple of times, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. It was just impressive, but they were never complaining.
Yeah, thank you. And as far as continuing to work with the same people, I try to, but I also think that there's a point that either they do something where that's bigger and they get paid a lot of money, and that could change their attitude, and they may not want to come back to a situation that's deferred pay or whatever it may be. So sometimes they change. As much as I might want them, they may not want to come back. But I think for the most part, I try. The guy who did the music for the Ramrod, he's doing the music for my new movie. He did my music for another movie that's done, that's not out yet, called Gruesome Threesome. And, so I try, as long as they want to work with me, because it creates that kind of chemistry. Yeah. Anybody else got a really good story or question? Maybe I'll give another good story on the movie. I think that, when you do a film, it's going to take a long time. And you've got to have like an endurance. It's not a sprint, it's like a marathon. So whether you're an actor, a sound reporter, sound designer, music reporter, whatever, you just got to kind of commit to it, stick with it, and go all the way through it, because nobody's really going to do it for you. And, when you're talking about 4 years to make a feature, which is what this took, we've got 2 offers from Hollywood for this movie. They want it. And the company that represented us, that was our rep, sold the first Blair Witch, which made over $100 million. And they said we could sell this film. And sure enough, we have 2 offers. We don't know which one we're going to take yet, because they're both kind of different.
I didn't know that.
It's true. And once we decide to sign with them, it's going to take about 6 months to come out, because there's a lot of legal paperwork. They want all the releases. We need to give them artwork, poster. They could change the title. They could do other things. So it's kind of a hard, long road. But, and I'm not saying this for my ego, but as a director, writer, producer, I'm the only person that starts with a blank page, and I'm there when they sell the movie and show it, like tonight. So all those actors that complain from a 4 or 5, 8 day shoot, that's really nothing compared to what I go through, making thousands of phone calls, raising money, which is not easy, trying to stick with replacing editors, DPs, whatever the situation may be.
I gotta say something, because I work with a lot of high-profile directors, but Terry is not just a director, he's a filmmaker. So he does a lot of different roles, which is, what a true filmmaker is. Like, he does everything. He's even a producer, he does everything. So it's impressive.
Have you guys had a good time tonight? Woo! Thank you so much for coming out, being a great crowd. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys. Get home safe, have a good night. Thank you.